my name is Ruby Rose Pivot-Marsh, and I'm the director of the Emerging Writers Festival, and I'm the artistic director of the Emerging Writers Festival, and I'm thrilled to welcome you to 8 days of projects, performances, and professional development for storytellers of all kinds. This year, the festival is completely digital, but that doesn't mean it's any less full of vibrancy, vitality, and verve. EWF is a tiny but passionate team that I'm so proud to be part of and to work with. We weren't sure what this year's festival was going to look like, but we've managed to put together over 60 events and projects and program almost 150 artists across 8 days. Thank you, Alice, Millie, Danny, Zoe, and Pip, for your vision and your dedication. Thank you to our board for your support and willingness to come with us on this journey in putting together the Emerging Writers Festival in a very new way. Thank you to our major partners, Creative Victoria and City of Melbourne, and to the Wheeler Centre, who have been incredibly supportive all along the way, as well as Melbourne City of Literature. Thank you to our principal publishing partner, Hachette, our principal media partner, The Saturday Paper, and our education partner, Swinburne University. And thank you, all our supporters and donors, for investing in emerging storytellers. And of course, thank you to you, our artists and our audience, for coming along with us, for being excited with us, for making space and time with us to celebrate storytelling in so many ways. This festival is special because of you. But this festival also takes place during a time where globally people are fighting for life and liberation, and this isn't something to be ignored or brushed aside or distracted from. Violence perpetrated against Black people all around the world is not new, and it is ongoing. It is ingrained, and it is as insidious as it is overt. Here in so-called Australia, the number of Aboriginal deaths in custody has only continued to increase since the recent Black Lives Matter protests, which call to attention exactly this violence. Meanwhile, police are protecting inanimate figures of colonisation, and COVID has disproportionately impacted Black and First Nations people and people of colour all over the world. The arts may not hold all the answers, but we can hold space and speak truth to power. There is always something to be said for storytelling, and we can use our platforms to celebrate and hopefully to initiate change. Black voices are so important to listen to and to give resources to, not just now, but always. Tonight, I invite you to listen to the incredible First Nations artists sharing their visions for the future. For the Bogong Black Futures, you will hear from Emily Munro-Harrison, Travis de Vries, Trey Turner, also known as Stone Motherless Cold, Vanessa Turnbull-Roberts, and Enoch Mailangi, as they lay down speculative visions for the future, from warnings to blueprints of Black futurism. Just before the Bogong begins, I would like to welcome Minister Martin Foley, who's the Minister for Creative Industries. Thank you for your kind support of and generous enthusiasm for our festival. Thank you all for coming along to the opening of the 2020 Emerging Writers Festival. I'll see you in cyberspace. Remember that this always was and always will be Aboriginal land.
Welcome to the 2020 Emerging Writers Festival. First, I would like to acknowledge that while we meet online, I stand on the land of the Kulin Nation. I pay my respects to the elders past, present and emerging, and to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are part of this festival or streaming in. The First Peoples of this land have a culture of storytelling that stretches back tens of thousands of years, and their stories and perspectives are more important than ever now and for the future. What that future might look like is the perfect place to start this year's festival. I look forward to hearing from the 4 incredible First Nation artists who will share their vision tonight as part of the Bogong Black Futures. While I can't predict the future, I can be certain that we have 8 days of creativity and ideas ahead of us. 8 days for us to connect with storytellers of all kinds, from poets to podcasters, journalists, design makers. 8 days to work our way through more than 60 events involving 154 artists presented on every imaginable digital platform. This festival has long led the way in presenting online events and has absolutely risen to the challenge of our physically distant times. Congratulations to Ruby Rose Pivot Marsh on your first festival as Artistic Director, and to the whole Emerging Writers Festival team. As always, you have carved a space where creativity is celebrated, where new talent is nurtured, where diverse voices are represented, and where writers, readers, artists and audiences can connect. This is vitally important now more than ever. Thank you and enjoy the festival.
Hi, my name's Munro-Harrison. I'm a Wiradjuri woman. My family hails from central New South Wales, and I wanted to start by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land that I live and work on, the Wiradjuri people. Pay my respects to elders past and present. I'd like to also invite you to really think about your connection to the place that you're on now and pay your respects to the custodians of the land as well. And tonight especially, I'd like to think about the leaders of the future and acknowledge them as well. So the work that I do looks at the ways Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures and ways of being are celebrated in this place now, and the ways that we've resisted and defied the narratives of deficit, dysfunction and invisibility in these places. Specifically, I'm really interested in looking at the ways that young people are restoring their connections and culture here. Our young people are dynamic, amazing and deeply creative. They're inventive and intelligent in the ways that they live culture and place. Our future is really bright. In these times of great sadness and exhaustion, knowing that these young people are our future gives me great hope. This poem is about them, our ancestors, and this present moment. It's pretty hard to feel very good about the events here and internationally relating to the violence and murder of Black people. So I hope that you can imagine a better future with me. So many words have been used, articles and reports written, recommendations made, streets marched, voices yelled together. So much has already been said. What else is there to say? I can't breathe. I have no words. I cut my grief into tiny pieces and I scatter them through my body. A dulling of the pain, spread out thinly in at least 432 places inside. A slight paralysis seeps in, a heaviness that feels like it's crushing me. Push it down deeper, pushing us down deeper, pushing a 16-year-old's face into bricks, kicking out our legs, drowning us, killing us. But instead of a roar of outrage, there's this ominous, high-pitched tinnitus of injustice vibrating throughout. It's so normal now we can't even hear it. You can't even see it. I can't even voice it. And instead of my mouth, there is a question mark about my humanity. In a dream last night, I had a visit from the future. It reminded me, be ready. I'm not, but I know it's coming. I can feel it, and I think you can too. We still get that pushback, but it's not as bad here. As if death is a competition, or suffering is something you can compare. We aren't allowed to feel our pain. We're not allowed to speak it. We are menaced once again into silence. This is how it works. The land reminded me on a walk yesterday to remember. I forgot, but I'm still searching, listening, waiting. I can feel a simmering inside me. I'm still. We are still here. In this time and place, I sometimes feel lost, hopeless. But it's possible to imagine a future that is different to today. There'll be a time when this is not a reality, when we outlive the prison that sometimes feels like we'll never escape and never belong to, where instead of funding prisons and punishment, we invest in possibilities and futures. We believe in the potential for change. It's time to imagine what a different kind of justice looks like. To say to those that we've lost, we miss them. We'll never forget them. We won't allow these injustices to continue. Together, we are boiling. We have erupted, disrupted. Whisper in the ears of those who hurt us, who hold us down. It's time to wake up. Awakening from the dream, despite the amnesia, there's an inkling, a surging, a resurging. Pick up that knowledge of your ancestors. Pick up that fight. Respect. Arm yourself with their love. Tend to the fire that drives you. Leaves are offered as an exchange of law and safe passage in place. Leaves are placed in a fire for smoke. A crowd gathers to show we will not be silenced. Smoke is cleansing. Smoke is cleansing. Smoke is cleansing. Healing is connection to place. Respect for life. Healing is imagining a future that values our lives. After the fire, we prepare the soil to grow a new kind of crop, one that actually was always here. It's perfectly suited to this place. It knows how to live and thrive here. It's survived here. We always had this future. Now we're awake, we can see it.
Now is our time. We are the future gods. We remake this land in our image. Control, key, alt, delete. Take what we need. Copy and paste. Steal the system. Hearts and minds, the big leagues, always just out of frame of the cameras, encapsulated in the immortality of film. This thing is the real me. I'm not wearing it to hide. I'm wearing it to show my true form. The string puller. The god thing. My people. A race of warriors. The baddest omens. Disruptors. Max capacity. Plugged into the machine, each one pruning, taking small fragments of thought web. Plugged into the machine, each one pruning, taking small fragments of thought weft out of the minds of the general pop. Establishing a global cabal. Guy Fawkes masks are done. This is our time. Secret government. Integrate, overtake, and then assimilate. There is no end goal. Your society has crumbled, and this is our world now. Your gods are dead. We lost something a few hundred years ago when you first came here. We weren't ready for the diseases and the hot lead flying at us. But now, we've gotten it back. Your god has been left behind and forgotten. The door is closed there. We remember our gods. We carry them with us every day. Not so gentle and nice as a mark of lamb's blood on the door and firstborn sons. Our gods have teeth. Dingo, snake, eagle, whale, goanna. Gods you can understand. Duramilam, Biranula, Bayami, gods with purpose, deities you can sink your belief into. I send my 130 characters out into the stratosphere to my 0 followers. I talk to myself, a certain kind of like guest. My boys are tapping on their computers, the thought wave streaming out of the public and into their minds, directly plugged into mine. Stealing the only reasons that anyone would have left to do about it. A new type of couch potato, the subservient public, the uninitiated, the unwashed, the unclean. I've cornered the market, fused a form of sacred knowledge into shiny new technologies. One that can look inside a head and steal dreams. With dreams come ideas, and ideas comes the power. Red dirt and the looming spectre of a big rock woman, the beating heart. It's all a front, a cleverly constructed fantasy to keep you from the real. This entire place is a mass hallucination. A cloaking device dropped. Tin shed with a massive indoor borer ring and command station. Ceremony ground and internet cafe, 100 computers and servers tapped into the mainframe, dozens of my people tapping away, cybernetic lines of energy flowing from the machine to the borer ring, transparent coils of wire, cellulose and carbon fiber, creating a physical connection to another plane of reality. Tap, tap, tap. Tapped into the source, into the dreaming, twisting it and changing it however we like. We are the new reality. We are the zeitgeist. We are your new gods. Twisting spiritual power into an interdimensional gateway, taking from you your very identity, putting it in a bag and sealing it away. You're unallowed to practice who you are. Secret codes within a National Geographic magazine spelling out the key to the universe. Periphery doors, a sighing catacomb of existence. Minds disconnected. Veins of coal, gold, and silver ripple through my awareness, hurtling towards my destination. Untouched and unknown motherlodes of mineral wealth. One large mine shaft drilled directly through Uluru One large mine shaft drilled directly through the center of the earth. The hive mine, the great rock. the central spire of the machine. Glistening like oil and ever-changing, the motherboard conglomerate flashes drowsy lights through the smoke machine air, whirring and purring with electrolyzed hums. A mechanical arm building itself as it unfolds from the central body to extend its reach. 100,000 tireless nanobots zip across the space between the machine and me. It smashes into my forehead and stops still. My weathered skin cracks. Skin formed thousands of years before, gouged and convulsed as the nanobots enter into my body. 1,000 dreams transfer into my skull. I become. A conduit reverberating with pure energy. This is me.
I acknowledge that this video has been made on the lands and waterways of Wurundjeri and Bungarong peoples of the Kulin Nations. The first peoples that have always and will always be storytelling, making and creating on these lands. I pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. I extend my respects to all the beautiful black bodies watching and that are here today. I want to also acknowledge that I was completing this work during the pandemic and recent acts of state-sanctioned violence, bringing forth an influx of momentum for Black Lives Matter movements all over the world. Keeping this momentum, the precipice of revolution glows ahead, and from that rises the Black queer renaissance. Through hundreds of years of pain and suffering, the conscious acts of healing will follow. For many of us, that is going to look different, feel different, be different. My ancestors knew that as we look after the land will look after us. A two-way knowledge system, going both ways, guiding each other to heal one another. And right now, that is what I'm interested in. What is healing? What is healing going to look like in a decolonized world? Inter-indigenational exchanges and guiding each other. Perhaps traditional practices working together with other knowledges that have been brought to this land. How much of Western medicine and sciences will we dismiss? Considering that most Western sciences and medicine has been appropriated from the resources and knowledges of other Indigenous peoples around the world. In my recent works, I've been creating a world of fairies, exploring the similarities of the origins and stories of fairies and the colonial perspective of Indigenous peoples. A queer fantasy world of escapism. To delve into those parallels, using the fairy characters to explore metaphors for acts of ongoing resistance against colonization and the intersections of being a queer black fella, where my dreams and visions can frolic. Black lives matter, Indigenous lives matter, Black trans lives matter, Indigenous trans lives matter. Always and forever, always was and always will be Aboriginal land. A viral entity encroached, trying to consume the land, killing most of the natural structures. It pried apart the ground, soaking in the enriched materials, raising vanadium towers, multiplying with uranium, infiltrating creeks, running a binarial code, quickly spreading the virus's effect over the country. As it moved inland, it began to learn the languages of the water nymphs, and with toxic ink, sought to steal the sacred knowledge, storing words and stories inside their pages, a guide to deceit for the virus. Once the stories had all been soaked up into their books, the waterholes were shallow and the once steady brooks connecting each waterhole were running thin. Nymphs were unable to reach their neighbours. The nymphs were growing wary and begun to prepare for the droughts ahead. The virus was poisoning the water. To keep the knowledge they had flowing within the waterhole, they made the creek sleep, temporarily cutting off waterways to keep from the white gaze of the virus. After years of resisting against the virus, it was finally fought off. The crystal beings were tired and went back into the earth to rest. Transforming into tiny sprouts of energy, they were placed into the mother's damp earth and rested After years of sleeping, they emerged. An amalgamation of organic, earth, water, a collection of the forces that resisted against the virus. Coalescent beings. They could now focus on healing the damage. First was the water. Using the plant material that was in their bodies created energy from the sun and refracted light into the toxic water, purifying it. With the light seeping throughout the water, the last cells of the virus was flushed out. The vanadium towers were opened. As the vanadium came from the earth, the coalescent beings reused it as gathering places for the plants and animals. One day, a water nymph entered one of these towers. The vanadium had reacted with the red sand, making it stark white. Inside were remnants of the virus, a hole glorifying the damage that had been done among them, books containing stolen words. Stolen words telling the wrong stories. It described the creation of the virus by the Trinity, that it was divine right that the virus spread the Trinity across as many lands as it could. So say the book. The nymph brought back the words to the waterhole, sharing with the others, taking back the words one by one, each drop adding to the collective flow, welling the pull-up so high it was overflowing. And the nymphs opened back up the channels and so awoke the waterways that lay dormant for so long, reconnecting waterholes that missed each other's touch, lapping in each other's drops, soaking in new knowledge and experiences, bursting with energy and teeming with life. The water nymphs rejoiced. Vanadium towers along the coast reacted with the salt spray and sprung up large forests of metal. The crystalline beings reused these to continue the energy of the gathering place, and large parties were held. In grottos constructed by earth and water, beside the veiny river Tar, they were dancing on land that had been danced on for millennia before. Coalescent beings would meet in these repurposed chambers. New mushroom circles from ancient fallen trees where lights twirled and splattered. And hours would disappear in long blanks in a heartbeat, noise crashing against sealed walls and seeping into their sweaty pores. Pools of the newly decontaminated water, viscous circles splashing below feet, a dance floor mirror, columns of water paying to ease. Even though they had transformed back into coalescent beings, the virus kept stolen knowledge well hidden, harming the coalescence power, so the water wanted to help. The water wanted to facet the crystalline beings. Gushing over the body, peering closer, analyzing, gluing the being to the ground, unable to move until the process is done. As streams move down the body, connecting terrestrially, pillars of energy containing the being, cutting, polishing, releasing, cleaning. The water embraced, fluidly, truly, parties of vibration and motion, sounds rippling through crystal, pulling, center from sternum, a glow, radiating into the whole. The coalescent being stripped bare, rejuvenated.
Not many want to comprehend the history of Australia. However, there comes a time when silence is betrayal, and Australia has been silent on black murders since 1788, which saw the process of invasion murder the many Aboriginal lives by the colony state forces, from slavery to slaughters to us never giving up sovereignty. This is a national disgrace. This is betrayal. These lives were taken by bullets, by suffocating, by the sexual abuse and spreading of diseases. These lives were taken yesterday, today, and the most astounding reality, tomorrow.
Black Lives Matter. We chant this, we know this, we live this. But the reality is, black lives do not matter when it comes to the abuse of the state or survival against poverty. The recent murder of George Floyd has sparked national discourse surrounding police brutality and black deaths in custody. From one side of the world to the other, we stand in solidarity with our sisters and brothers, taking on the systemic oppression of police killings that continue to perpetrate violence towards black lives. I guess when we look to the future, we can see the impact of globalization and how this has had on the world connecting. However, even in a pandemic, in a moment of quietness, when the only thing that can be heard is the tears and the chants, we are still faced with the same racism entrenched in this country. We are still faced with this being louder than the bullet, louder than the last breath, louder than the justice, and even louder than the truth.
This racism is very much alive in Australia, and I have bared witness to these experiences. My family, community, kinship also feel this.
Every day, for many First Nations people around the sacred countries here in Australia, is a day that we are fearful of the future. I am yet to meet a First Nations parent that does not fear the safety of the child every day when it comes to protecting them from state intervention.
Let me tell you a little of what runs through the fear of the future. These questions sound like:
will my child make it another day?
Will my children make it home from school?
Will the Department of Welfare come and remove my child today?
Will this payment last me and my family to the next fortnight?
Will we have food for tomorrow?
Going forward and looking at black futures, we ask:
will the state murder us today? Murder our families, our communities, and collective identity? And if we look at the now, the answer is yes.
The constant narrative and fear for many of us in the next day, not knowing what they may hold, not knowing if we would need to mobilise with the community for another protest or prepare for sorry business.
The future is fearful for many of us. It's safe to say that the future isn't promised. And if you're black in this country, you're probably hoping for the hopeful vision. But if we take a good hard look at the past of the colonial violence, the best indicator of future behaviour is past behaviour. And in this country, that's slavery, torture, rape, abuse, child removal, land destruction, and white fragility's failure to acknowledge the harm of this.
To look to black futures fully and with meaning, it's the action of the now which makes it more powerful. Reimagining our new world begins in our homes, with our community, friends and family.
To look to black futures, we must bring our ancestors with us and our past with us. Black futures gives us the confidence to survive the now, but it shouldn't be the only thing.
Like police protecting the statues of their ghosts, which haunt and serve as reminders of violent dispossession.
We protect the statues of ours, in our hearts and minds, as a source of survival, shared struggle, and a new world free from violence.
Whilst many want to know the blueprint of what is black futures, let me tell you about the black presence. It's about deep reflection of the black past in this country, the sacred energy of love, kinship, truth and connection that has existed since the first sunrise.
It's the removal of whiteness, suffocating the lives of First Nations people. Many people continually look to the future, when our realities and truth sit right behind us, in our own backyard. White promises have never been guaranteed. White Australia has a black history. As our connection has existed since the first sunrise, our connection will remain to the last sunset.